Ms. Barkley, you may begin. All right, thank you so much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think I saw two males. Welcome to this another faculty development workshop put on by the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning. And in today's session, we are looking at the whole matter of screencasting videos. So I am just trying to get my presentation up and ready. So my name is Michelle Stewart-McKoy. I'm taking us through this particular series of feedback, and I am from the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning. We call it the CETL or CETL. You may hear it being called CETL. And with me is Miss Barkley, Miss Natasha Barkley, who is our administrative support. Miss Barkley, I saw you fix up your avatar. You can turn it on and just say a few words, please, very quickly.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all enjoy the session as I will. And yeah, looking forward to it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Miss Barkley. Now, when I go full screen, it's very difficult for me to see the chat or to see hands if hands are raised. So Miss Barkley will be assisting me here. Just a few other things before we begin. One, I am using two screens. So if I turn away, that's because I'm using a second screen. Secondly, this is a conversation, all right? So if you have a question, please don't wait until I'm finished and you lose train. Just post it in the chat or raise your hand or signal to me by opening your mic. The third thing, which is more important, I think is the most important, is I would like to remind us that our sessions are recorded, and the sessions that are recorded are usually shared on our YouTube channel for professional development purposes. So if there's anyone here who has an issue with turning on your camera, you can keep the cameras off. You can use an avatar, you can use a virtual background. And if you have any concerns about your name showing up, and just send me a private message in the chat, or Miss Barkley, who is represented by the CETL, or send us an email at cetl@uwimona.edu.jm before we post the videos. All right. So I just want to ensure that that piece of information is out there. All right, so today we're looking at screencast feedback. We're looking at how we can personalize student feedback using ScreenPal. It was formerly known as Screencast-O-Matic. And you may have realized that the series of technology workshops have been focusing on feedback. It's an area of concern about the different types and how often and the quality of feedback that we give. And so we're making attempts to address that. And so today's session is also looking at feedback, how we can look at an emerging area, that of video feedback, screencast feedback, and how we can set it up using the different feedback formats, whether it's verification, strategic or constructive, elaborative, or metacognitive, or a combination, and how we can use them in giving feedback to our students. All right, so that is essentially what we're going to be doing today, looking at this particular tool and how we can also use it in giving feedback to students. Now, please note that we're focusing on feedback, but of course you can use the tool for other things. All right. Okay, so let's move on. What are we going to be doing today? So already I have welcomed you, and I suspect that others will be joining us. And so we're going to move beyond, in this particular session, we're going to move beyond the traditional text-based feedback to create something that's more personalized, that's more engaging and effective for our students. And we're going to be using the tool ScreenPal. Now, one of the challenges that we face as educators is not just about providing feedback to ensure, so students, it's about providing feedback to ensure that it is accessible, that it is understandable, and that it is actionable for our students. And this is where multimedia feedback tends to come in, and specifically screencasts, okay? So we can use it to deliver very personalized. So in today's session, we're going to be looking at a number of things. One, we're going to be looking very quickly, not too long, at the whole matter of, marrying multimedia with and pedagogy. So we're going to be exploring the pedagogical rationale behind using multimedia feedback, and in this case, video feedback, and more specifically, screencast feedback. We're going to examine the very basic features. Now, ScreenPal is a tool that has a number of features. We're only going to be looking at a few features, and we will be zooming in on feedback. So we're going to be looking at a few of the basic features of ScreenPal. Now we're going to be looking at how we can actually use it to develop personalized and multimodal feedback. So how we can incorporate images within our video and all kind of beautiful things you'll see in a few. And so we are going to set up our own basic, very basic, I keep using the word because that is what we're doing, very basic screencast. Given the time that we have, this is just an introduction. And then we're going to be looking at some strategies that we can use to implement screencast feedback with our students. So that is essentially what we have planned for us today. Okay, so this is where we're going to do the poll, but not quite yet, Miss Barkley. Have you ever, well, I have you ever spent hours, maybe not so much, but quite a bit of time writing detailed comments and highlighting certain things in color so that your students can understand exactly what to do with the feedback? And then after you have done all of that, you wonder if the students, one, read it, or if the students understood what it is that you had written. Has that ever happened to any of you? When you give your feedback, you ever wonder about whether or not the students know exactly what to do and feel the passion coming out? All right, so you don't have to answer that question. I'm going to stop sharing for a little minute so that you can, I see somebody said, of course, in the chat. So I'm going to just stop sharing for a minute so that Miss Barkley can share the poll. So it set up a poll that had two very simple questions. One that has to do with the main type of feedback that you practice and how you feel about that. So Miss Barkley, if you could share the poll, please. All right, thank you so much, Miss Barkley. And give about a minute for each question. So in another 30 seconds or so, you could move on to the second question. Another 40 seconds or so. So I see people are responding. Very good. Another 15 seconds, Miss Barkley. All right, so a number of persons have responded to the first question. Another 5 seconds, and then you can move to the second question, Ms. Barkley. Oh, both questions were shown on mine. Oh, nice. Okay, in another 5 seconds, and then you can share the poll, Miss Barkley, if it will allow you to share.
You said 5 seconds?
Yes, so you can end it now and share. All right, so I am just gonna talk a little bit about the responses. So what is your primary method of providing feedback to your students? And of all the persons who responded, everybody said written, whether handwritten or digital written feedback. So that's 100%. And then when asked, how confident are you that your students fully understand your feedback? A number of persons said somewhat. Well, everybody who responded for the first question said somewhat. confidence. All right. Thank you so much, Miss Thank you so much, Miss Barclay. So let me go back. So right away, we realize that we tend to, oh, let me reshare my screen. We tend to focus on written feedback, and we are not 100% confident. We're somewhat confident, but not 100% confident in whether or not our students fully understand. And that's understandable. We are coming from a tradition of written feedback. So it is understandable why we should all respond in that way. But of course, this is an opportunity for us to look at other ways of giving feedback. All right. Now, before we delve into the technical aspect, let us just make a quick case for multimedia from a pedagogical perspective. There are several positives and potentials when we think about using it. So the first point is enhanced clarity and comprehension. And this is not coming from just anecdotal evidence. So Richard Meyer, he has the cognitive theory of multimedia learning, and his work came out in 2009. And he says that students learn better from words and images than from words alone. So when we explain concepts verbally, if we can show students their work, we're engaging multiple processing channels, which would understand or enhance our students' understanding. And then, of course, the second one speaks about that emotional connection and motivation. So work from Borup, people like Borup and his colleagues, they came out with a research that said that video feedback helped to create some sort of social presence and emotional connection between the facilitators and the students, especially in the online space. And so their work showed that students reported feeling more motivated to implement the feedback, and that they could see and hear the facilitator's explanation. And then, of course, there is the accessibility and universal design for learning aspect. So I don't know if anybody here has been to any of the sessions before, but when we were looking at the lesson, the Moodle lesson, and how we could use it to give feedback, we had, deviated a little bit and had looked at the universal design for learning. Now, the universal design for learning says that if we provide multiple means of engagement, we reach more students. So if we use the screencast or the multimedia or the video-based feedback, we can engage our students in different formats. And this, of course, aligns with UDL principles. So we offer students different options in how they receive the information. And this is particularly beneficial for students who have different learning styles, different learning preferences, or students with any kind of disability. And when we think about time efficiency, of course, we have to think about it with practice. If you have never done this before, there is going to be a learning curve. There's going to be an initial learning curve. But once you realize that you become more proficient, it becomes very easy. It becomes easier in giving feedback, screencast feedback or video-based feedback to our students. And it may be a little bit faster than writing or typing up the feedback. So it may take a little while. And there, of course, is the research that supports this. So people like Turner and West, I think it was in 2013, they said that their instructors and their facilitators could provide more detailed feedback in less time when they use the feedback capture aspect of it. And then finally, student preferences. There are a number of research studies that show that students prefer getting video feedback over just audio feedback or written feedback, because to them, the feedback is more personal, it's clearer, and it's definitely more engaging. So we can make a case for screencast feedback, for multimedia feedback, for video-based feedback when we are thinking about engaging our students in this teaching and learning environment. But what exactly are screencasts? So I keep talking about screencast. In the simplest sense, screencasts are just digital recordings of your computer screen with audio narration. So there need to be some kind of talking while you're recording the screen. When we think about it in the setting of feedback, however, it's basically you recording yourself while you're reviewing your students' work. You are providing you're providing verbal commentary as you navigate the students' work, giving feedback. It means that you highlight certain sections visually so that the student can see areas that need more attention or attention. And then, of course, it means that you can use your webcam or you can not use your webcam. There are those who say that if you use your webcam, it's almost as if you're there talking to the students as in a face-to-face or an in-person conference. So why would we use, after we hear what exactly it is, why would we use it? Well, we just heard the evidence before. Students engage more when they have the video feedback aspect, the visual plus the audio aspect of it enhances students' understanding a little bit more. There is a greater teacher presence, especially if you have your camera on and this is in an online space, which we know can be very lonely at times. It allows for tone and emphasis to come across a little better than if you were writing it. And we are reminded that we're not supposed to be using red ink and writing in full caps, but you can raise your voice, you can lower your voice, you can add a smile, you can add a query if you're using your voice and you have that visual aspect. And it can be over time more time efficient than writing out detailed comments. So this is why we would engage in screencasts. Now, the screencast that we're talking about today is called ScreenPal. It was developed in 2006, and then it was known as Screencast-O-Matic. People will tell you that it's very versatile. It's a recording tool that also allows you to do screen captures or screencasting. You can use your webcam or you can use both of them while you are doing your audio and narration. The software includes features like, as did say that, screen recording, audio recording, screenshot capture, video editing, image editing, interactive quizzes, video storyboarding. What else does it have? I think that's probably it. And then it works well with both Windows and Mac platforms. And then there are mobile versions. Yes, they're really moving with this thing for both iOS and Android versions of it. And the beautiful thing about ScreenPal, it was in 2023 that the name was changed to ScreenPal. I have used it. It is a freemium, meaning that it has a free aspect and it has a premium, meaning a paid aspect. But the free aspect is beautiful because you get all of 15 minutes. Now, you should never give feedback to students for 15 minutes long, which means that you have more than enough time to work with. So the free version has 15 minutes that you get, and there are a number of things that you can do quite well, comfortably in the free version. When we're going through, you may be using the free version. I just want to let you know that I will be using a paid version. So I will need your help. When I say you can do this, just indicate to me if this is indeed in the free version. I no longer have the free version since I have paid for it. All right. So I was telling you that one of the beautiful things about it, and I use it and I love it. My friends will tell you that I love using it for different reasons, is that there are so many things that you can do with it in getting your feedback across. So let me just share with you. I'm going to stop talking and let it speak for itself. So I did a sample feedback lesson on a course, and it's the course that I tend to use in my workshops. It's a fictitious course, game-based learning in the Caribbean. GBLC 2109 or 2509, depending on the level that I'm working with. The student in this paper, that's me. So the name of the student is Stewart-McKoy. Just letting you know that I didn't use a real student's paper. It's a fictitious paper made up just for the purpose of sampling. All right, so I'm going to press play and you tell me if you're hearing clearly. All right, and then I'll just pause and replay. Hi, Allison. I just went through your paper. Are you hearing?
Yes, we are.
Yes,
All
we
right,
are.
great. Okay, so I'm just
Yes.
gonna play this. I enjoyed it thoroughly and I wanted to give some feedback using this video format because I'll be able to give you more detailed comments than I could if I were just giving you a written feedback. Now, first of all, I want to highlight some of the strengths in your paper. The first one has to do with your analysis of mobile access. So right here, where you talk about the penetration of mobile devices and phones exceeding 90% was quite good because it speaks to the penetration, and it makes sense that with such a penetration that games would be digital game-based learning would be useful in the Caribbean. The other thing that I particularly appreciated is the cultural relevance. So you have outlined why Caribbean students need games, and in particular you have mentioned cultural heritage preservation, and then you have pointed out that they have increased Caribbean students' participation, especially among boys. So this was interesting for me and particularly inspiring to show that Caribbean students need games that reflect their own context and their experiences. Now, while the paper was good, there was a little room for some improvement, nothing much that I want to talk about. In your implementation strategies, let me just go right here. Oh, you have a little typo going on there, nothing to worry about. In your implementation strategies, you have you mentioned 4 particular areas. It may be good for you to think about including electricity reliability, especially after natural disasters. Remember that here in the Caribbean we suffer from natural disasters such as hurricanes and earthquakes, and so it would be good for you to also add and expound on electricity reliability. And then you speak about lack of training and provided in your solution the whole matter of providing professional development. It would be good for you to strengthen the area by saying what specific professional development recommendations. So what are the different skills that you think teachers would need in order to assist in executing game-based learning? And finally, in your conclusion, the conclusion was a little bit abrupt and left me wanting more. So think about concrete next steps. Which institutions might lead to these efforts? What exactly would be the specific conclusions that you would want? How exactly could schools benefit from this? So I really enjoyed this. Just think about, and your references, I think there are 2 more papers that you could look at, particularly in Jamaica, to extend on this. But particularly this was well done. It was a strong piece of work. It shows good understanding of digital game-based learning and Caribbean educational context. Just think about ensuring, let me just scroll up again and look at it. Yes, it was well written. Just think about adding more specific data where this is possible. Think also of expanding your teacher training recommendations and propose more concrete next step. All in all, this was well done. Congratulations. If you have any queries, send me an email or stop by the office. Well done. All right, so that is I think it's a 3 minute and 2 seconds or 3 minute and 12 second video, which means that it is within the limit of a 3 to 5 minute video if you're doing this kind of feedback. But I want to ask you, and I'm going to just stop sharing right here so that we can talk about this a little bit What how do you feel about what you just saw? Any comments? Did you were you intimidated? Did you get excited? Is this something that you could think about? Did you see any feedback formats being used? I'm coming at just flinging out a number of questions for a minute. Did you see verification only, or did you see a combination of the feedback formats? Was there any constructive, strategic? Was there any elaborative or metacognitive feedback? So let's talk about this. So the first handout that's up is Amanda. Go ahead, Amanda.
I must say, we all know communication. So much of it is nonverbal. So to be able to hear and the enunciation, the inflection in your voice really added to the feedback rather than just reading it, because sometimes you're wondering where in the sentence or the feedback is the emphasis. And you could have immediately reassured. So even though there was a typo, you could immediately tell her that, hey, it's just a little typo, it happened, and you were able to go through and go back when you remember something. But sometimes when you, especially if the feedback is just at the bottom of the page, you're wondering, okay, what part of this is it really addressing? Where did I fall down? So you could really capture a lot. It was like a one-sided conversation, but it felt like a conversation, like I was there getting the feedback instead of just reading something. So I really enjoyed it.
Great. Thank you. Tamika, your hand is up.
Yes, I sometimes when I provide feedback, the feedback to the feedback is that they can hear me coming out in the writing. Like eventually they learn to read it how I would say it. But this process eliminates the need for them to translate, if you understand what I'm saying. So it provides an opportunity for you to come out. And I really, really, really had an appreciation for that particular part. I know that, well, that's from the side of the teacher. Additionally, I know that sometimes there is something like a kernel you want to hone in on. You understand? And
Yes.
the writing may not allow you to express yourself as fulsomely as you could. I remember I had one student who was she was just really poor in one particular part, and she was improving. And I had to have like a one-on-one session with her. But if I could have had access to this software, we perhaps did not need to have that one-on-one where two of us meeting at the same time. You understand? But I really, really would have needed to tell her that she's improving and to highlight how she would have grown or is growing and how she can continue to move forward. And I think this is something we should really invest in as teachers.
Okay, thank you so much. Yalian?
Oh, yes. All right. Well, I definitely love it because, first of all, in the case of foreign language, when you are giving feedback, sometimes you want to give that intonation. Let's see that the work is a video that the student did a conversation, and I want to tell her, no, instead of be so, your intonation have to increase, and I can actually pronounce also when, for example, when I give written feedback, it's a headache sometimes with the tildes, the accent, because you can't type it and you have to go to the symbols and and it facilitates so much, so much. Trust me, I love it. When I open the pen, the ScreenPal, and I saw so many
Yes.
features, I say, wow, yes, why I didn't find out about this before. But trust me, I love it. It's really helpful. Thank you.
Great, great. Are there any comments in the go ahead, Sandra, go ahead.
Yes, I really liked it. Very, very versatile. I can see what I could do with it. But my question was, first of all, you left me wanting for more because I was wondering why you didn't tell me the two references that you mentioned that I could also have read. So
Right.
is it a one-way stream, or do you also receive video feedback from the students?
Well, it depends on how you set it up. So you can request video feedback from the students. And we had a workshop earlier in the year, I think it was Miss Barkley, where we looked at the feature in the new VLE, our new Moodle, where you could ask students to give video or audio feedback, and in addition to you giving. So it really is what it is you want to do as a teacher and how you want to receive the information from the students. So yes, it can be you giving them a video and asking them to respond using a video.
And I noted that you did your own, you paid for your own subscription. There are some
Yes, I've been
software that
using it for
MITS
years now. So this isn't one of them that MITS provides,
will
has on the
provide.
list, no.
Okay,
And
okay.
I find it to be reasonable. I pay what is it, $19.90 I think for the year. When I started out, it
Okay,
was something
okay.
like $14. And because of the nature of what it is I do, I create a lot of videos here in the center and have to edit them and so forth. I decided, you know what, let me pay for it. And then I claim back on the book grant.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yes. Ms. Barclay was asking, were there any comments in the chat? Any questions or anything like that?
No, we did have a few responses from, is it Elliot?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and I think they are responding. It says, I love the style of the feedback and it's really personalized. And she was saying we can pay attention to the details. And then we have Carnell Farkinson, who
Mhm.
says, I like this, provides an avenue for concise synopsis and eliminates the difficulty of coordinating in-person or live video interaction.
Yes. And one of the things that I love about it is that if you find that there are certain errors, recurring errors in all your students' work, instead of doing this individually for each student, you do a bulk. You do one bulk feedback, highlight certain areas, and you share that on the VLE with your students, or you put it in a central area if you want your students to have access to that. Go ahead, Carnell.
Just a quick question. I'm not the most IT savvy person. How easy did you find it to be able to just do simple feedback with using this?
I don't think I'm the right person to ask that. I have a passion for the technology, so I dabble a lot, but it is relatively easy. And we're going to actually start looking at it now to show you how exactly you could do that without breaking a sweat. Are you ready for us?
Ready?
Cardio? All right, great. Okay, so one of the things you were asked to do was to download the software. And one of the reasons we asked for you to do that is that we don't have enough time in the session for you to download and do the setup. So everybody who has registered should ideally have already downloaded the software. Now, I have, as I said before, I have been using Screencast. I've been using it since it was Screencast-O-Matic. I had to download ScreenPal. So you go ahead. Somebody was asking something? All right, it seems as if somebody's mic was activated accidentally. So one of the things that I had to do, I had to download ScreenPal, familiarize myself with the ScreenPal interface because I've been using Screencast-O-Matic. If you had a Screencast-O-Matic before and you downloaded ScreenPal, it operates as two separate software pieces on your device. So even though it will reflect the same thing in both, you have ScreenPal separate from Screencast-O-Matic. So just letting you know that. I'm going to share my screen again, and then I'm gonna just talk us through what is happening. All right. So I have clicked on Screencast-O-Matic and ScreenPal, and it has brought up this window, and everybody should essentially have this window up. Yes, well, you probably don't see X number of videos. If it's the first time you're doing this, you wouldn't necessarily have a number of videos. Miss Barclay, I think there is a mic open and somebody doesn't realize. So if you could close it for me, please. All right.
All mics closed.
Thank you. So you will realize that you have an area here, and it's very straightforward. Where it says ScreenPal here, if you click on it, it takes you to the website. Let me just click on it and let you see. So it carries you to the ScreenPal website where you can either work on your device or you can use the cloud-based aspect of it. So that is if you click on the text there. All right. It says that auto backup is off. You can simply click the drop down. So this would mean that it is automatically updated to uploaded to the cloud. If you have a paid version, if you have a free version, I don't think that is the case. To the right, you see some other icons. And if you pass your cursor over, it tells you exactly what is happening. So this is a list of tasks that you may have, and you can have tasks running in the background. All right. So this is your task and your history. This is different languages. So if you are English, you can keep the English. If you want to change it to Spanish, yeah, that may work for you. You can do that. You can connect to different conferencing apps if you're doing something live. So these give you some very basic information. Over here, when you start building your videos, it will tell you how many videos you have, how many images, and this folder here, if you click the drop down, it tells you that you can browse and look for where you have different things, okay? And then over here, this is where we're gonna work in a few. This is where you would record your screen, all right? I'm just gonna click on it and show you something very quickly. When you click on that, it launches the recorder, and then it tells you that it will record anything that's in the frame, but you can always adjust this frame. All right, so you can make the frame bigger, you can go full screen. So this comes up that you can use the size. You can change the size to the full screen, or you can determine the size. You can decide whether or not you're going to record from your mic, or if you're going to also use a computer audio. Now this you'll have to be careful with. If you're using the computer audio, anything that's playing on your computer will be captured. All right, so you need to think about whether or not you want to have that captured as well. You can determine if you want to do your screen alone, if you want to do your camera alone, or if you want to do both your screen and camera. So what you saw earlier is both screen and camera. All right, so I'm going to cancel this because we'll come back when we're actually recording. So let me bring this back up. So I told you about video storyboards. This is where you would activate that. Now, this is where you tell me, Michelle, I'm not seeing that on mine. If you're seeing that, please let me know. If you're not seeing it, it helps me to fine tune what is in the free version and what is in the paid version. You can do screenshots and you can create images, okay? And then this, of course, is your canvas. This is where you will pull your information from to do the things that you want to do. All right, now I have Michelle, Alice McKoy's assignment, which I am going to share, which I'm going to share in the chat so that you can have it for those of you who want to work along. If you don't want to use that, that is fine. You can find an assignment that you would want to practice on. So let me just share in the chat the assignment. Please let me know if you see a PDF called Alison McCoy's assignment.
Yes.
All right, so download it so that you can have it, so that we can start the process. So as soon as you have done that, just let me know, or as soon as you have found an assignment or something that you want to practice on, just let me know so that we can continue. And you can raise your hand, or you can open your mic and say found it, or I have something already, or yeah, or anything that works for you. Just something to let me know that I can continue. May I continue? Okay, great. Thank you very much. So one of the first things that you're going to do is that you're going to open the assignment that you want to record. All right. So I have opened that. And then the next thing that I want to do is I want to start the recording button. All right. So when I click on record, it brings up where the recording will take place. So this is where I will open the assignment so I can see exactly how it would be lined up. All right. Now I can simply put my cursor at the end and drag it. So I can use any of the solid ends. So if I want to make it a little smaller, come on, move. All right, so that one isn't working with me right now. I don't know if it's because I've already set it up. So let me see if I can adjust it at the other section. So the beautiful thing about it is that you don't have to worry about adjusting it at one place. Come on. I'm trying to get this up and running. It's not moving. Ah, there we go. All right, so where it says size, if I click the red arrow here, okay, so this is my computer acting up. So you will see that you have different sizes. So you can use the active window, you can use full screen. It's really up to you, or you can do as you want, you know, so you can change and you can do a selection here, or you can do the adjustments by moving these up or down. All right, so that's the first thing. So you open the assignment that you want and you set it up. Now, you then decide whether or not you want to record the screen only, your camera only, or both. Okay, I'm going to turn my camera off so that I can show you how that works, because it's the same camera that I'll be using. And so I can't be using both at the same time. All right, so ideally, we're going to want you to use both. So if you click on both, you will see, come on, all right, there you go, it's highlighted. And at the bottom, you will see a little circle here. No, it doesn't have to be a circle. I changed it to a circle. You can change it to a square, or you can change it to the circle. I like the idea of the circle. And please note, you can move it. So you can move it to where you want it. The eye is closed. So if I click on it, it will open. Oh, I think I just closed it. All right, so it's open. So why am I not seeing myself? I think what happened the last time was that I was already working in Zoom. And then while I was in Zoom, I turned it off, so I didn't pick it up. So eventually it will come up. For the rest of you, if you're testing it, let me know if your camera came up, because you wouldn't have been using your camera in Zoom. So did anybody's camera come up when you click on it down here? Yes? No?
Trying it out now.
Or you can't get in?
No, I was looking at your screen, so I'm trying it out.
Oh, and let me know, please.
Sure.
Came up. Okay.
Oh, it came up. Great. It should come up. Oh, mine just came up. And then you'll realize that you can blur your background. I'm using a green screen, so if I put it on none, it will show the green screen. If I do blur, it does that. I don't particularly like the blur because you blend into it. So you can select a background which works, especially based on where you are. You may need that kind of privacy. You can upload from your computer, or you can go for stock images. All right. So that is recording and showing your screen. And we already spoke about the narration. So here, this is the mic that I'm using, and you notice that it keeps showing that it is active each time I talk. And my computer audio is off because I don't want any sounds, any pings, or any background music to be captured in this. Okay. And then when I'm ready, I click on record. Oh, record. Record. This is if I want to use their highlighter. So you can test it out if you want to use the highlighter. It allows you to select and make marks on your device as you go along. So you can decide which one you want and how you would use it. When you're ready, you click on record and it gives you a countdown. And the minute the countdown stops or it starts, ends, you can then start your recording. Try to look in the camera at points. So don't look in it so that it becomes uneasy or uncomfortable. Look as if you were having a conversation. Because you know, in conversations, we look up, we look across, we look down. So ensure that you maintain that natural aspect. And then you talk to the students. Ideally, address the student by name. Start with a positive and you go through. Now, because I had selected that, I can easily highlight. So I draw to show that while I am recording. If at any point you forget something or you want to think about something, you can pause the recording, make your notes and continue. Ideally, you should have exactly what it is you want to say ready. And then you scroll down. As you go through your recording, you scroll, you highlight areas that you want to highlight, and you ensure that you point out things that you want to point out to the students. So you do your recording and ensure that you go through the paper. You can say on page 1 or in this particular paragraph, or, you know, and ensure that you mix your feedback. So don't just say this is well done or this is great, you followed the examples. Go beyond that. So just go beyond just verification. Ensure that you elaborate. Why is this a strong point? Why is this not so strong point? And then you give the constructive feedback. Consider doing this. What about this? Have you thought about this? And remember, as much as possible, put in that metacognitive aspect that has the student reflecting and thinking about the work and the processes. When you are finished, you simply click back on this is what the pause button. So you click pause. All right. And so this is taking a little while. And you'll realize that it gives you a visual of what you have. So there is the play button. There is the when you're playing, you can go back, you can go forward. It gives you the timing, you can delete it, you can do several things with it, all right? So if I click on play, and the minute the countdown stops or it starts, ends, you can then start your recording. All right, so you can have a preview of it, and if you like what you see, you can then go on to editing it. If you feel that you need to redo it, you can simply click on the delete, that's a trash can. And if you click on it, it gives you 2 options. It gives you delete and cancel recording, which means that it cleans everything out and then you'd have to start again. Well, it cancels it, meaning that there's nothing, or delete and redo, which means that it takes you back to this particular window where you can record, you get the countdown and you start again. Now that we have done this recording and we are satisfied with it, what we do is we come across here. So we can edit the video to add captions, to cut it, to zoom in on anything that we want. So this is what we want. So when we click on this, it is going to carry us into ScreenPal. I keep calling it Screencast-O-Matic. Forgive me, please. So it is opening up the video here in ScreenPal, and I can do several things. The first thing I would want to do is to give it a name. So I would go Allison's feedback, Allison M feedback. All right, or you give it some name that makes it clear that this is Allison's work. So that is the first thing that I would do. Down here, I would click on play. The minute the countdown stops or it starts, ends, you can then start your recording. Try to look in the camera at points. So don't look in it so that it becomes uneasy or uncomfortable. Look as if you were having a conversation. All right, so you can go through and determine. So now I want to add different things to it. So you notice that, and let me go back at the beginning. Conversations, because you know, the minute all right, so you notice that there is something that says tools here. If you click the drop down, it gives you a number of things. So you can crop, you can copy, you can do so many different things here. We're going to highlight just 2 or 3 of these tools, but on your own, we encourage you to explore. All right, so I want to cut a bit of it. So let me play. If the countdown stops or it starts, ends, you can then start your recording. Try. All right. So and if you notice at the end here, you can click on this and it expands it. So you have a more a zoomed in version of your recording. Okay. Now this is up to where I want to cut, because I don't want that part in the video. So I go back to my tools and I go up to cut, and this comes up. It tells me that I can cut the entire thing, but I don't want to cut the entire thing. I want to cut just to this point. So if I select to the from here to the beginning by clicking on that arrow, it gives me this, and I can preview it. Try to look in the camera. That is perfect. Points. So don't look in it so that it becomes on. So that is what I want to start. Okay. Of course, you may want to start somewhere else, but you get a chance to preview it before you cut. And when I click OK, it's now gone. It gives me that little red line that tells me that I have worked on it and I have cut what was there before. All right. So I continue. Uncomfortable. Look as if you were having a conversation, because you know in conversation. Okay. So here I want to put up some text. All right. So I would go back to tool and I would go to overlay. Overlay will be your friend in many ways. So here you have image that you can put in. And then of course you have the highlights, which is what I did just now. And then you have text. So let us start with text. So you would go to tools, go to overlay, and then go to text. When you click on text, a box comes up where you can put your text. So you can just move it around, but you realize that you can fade it in, you can fade it out. And if you double click on it, you can write your information. So here I'm going to say, look natural, act natural. Okay, and then you'll realize that the color of the text is here. So this is the text is highlighted, so we can focus on the text. We can change the font, so it gives you quite a number of fonts. So you can change the font, you can change the size of the font, so you can make it bigger, you can make it smaller, you can change the color of the font. And then of course you can change the background. So you can decide that you want to have a background, or if you don't want to have a background color. If you don't want to have a color, you click that, it will give you that things through it. If you want to have a color, you simply select one of the colors. Now, when you're selecting your color, please ensure that you bear in mind accessibility for students who may have visual issues, but also the simple visual design principle. You can't have a light color text on a light color background and vice versa. So think about these things when you're putting it together. So I want act natural. And this down here on your timeline tells you how long it will stay on the screen. So if you click the preview, because you know in conversations we look up, we look across, we look down. So ensure that you maintain that natural. All right, so I want it to be a little longer. I can do that two ways. I can simply stretch this across, or I can use the up or down here to make it longer. And then of course I preview. Because you know in conversations we look up, we look across, we look down. So ensure that you maintain that natural aspect. And then you talk to the students, ideally address. All right, so I carried it out a little bit too much. So let me just carry it in again. And you keep previewing. In conversations, we look up, we look across, we look down. So ensure that you maintain that natural aspect. And then you talk to the students. All right, so I can work with that. No, just, and when you're satisfied with it, you click OK. All right. So if I go back and I do a little preview, because you know in conversations we look up, we look across, we look down. So ensure that you maintain. All right, so I'm happy with that. I probably would change this so that it goes towards me, since I'm the person talking here, so that it you know feels a little more natural. So this is if we're putting in our text. We may want to put in an image. All right. So let us go further down in the video. So let us say this is where we want to put in something else. I go back to tool. I go to insert, not insert, overlay. I go to image because this time I'm putting in an image. And then if you were using images before, you can use that, or you can select from your files. If you already have your images that you're going to use with your feedback, put them in a folder, put them in a central area where you can access them. If you had copied an image and you have it on your clipboard, you can select that. So you see, it gives you options. If you have projects that you were doing before, it can pull the images from there. And of course, there's a stock library. Much of what is in the stock library is, however, paid. So there are few free ones, but most of them are premium, so you'd have to pay. So here I have them already on my computer. So I simply go to where I want, right? And I go to, I'm looking for Lunch and Learn. There it is. And that's my ScreenPal. And oh, it's not there. I have the images. All right. So let me just take one of these images. Although ideally this is too big. This is inappropriate. But I'm putting this in and I am resizing it. All right. And so I can move my image and put my image where I want. And again, this tells me how long the image will stay on screen. And you can do a little preview. Get something, or you want to think about something, you can pause the recording, make your notes, and continue. So I'm happy with that. And so that is if I wanted to put an image in. If I wanted to highlight a certain section, meaning that the rest of the text is faded out so that you can have the student focus on that particular aspect, let me just go down a little bit to somewhere like here. What I would do is that, again, I go to tools and I go to overlay. As I said, in this case, for feedback purposes, overlay is great for us. And I go down to highlight, okay? And when I go to highlight, I select the section that I want the students to focus on. And it gives me a preview right away what that would look like. So I highlight the section, I do my preview, and say on page 1 or in this particular paragraph, or, and ensure that you mix your feedback. Okay, so that is what I want to highlight. I'm happy with it. I click OK. Okay, now sometimes we want to, and I'm just jumping at different points in the video here, but of course, if you're doing it with your student, for your students, you'd ensure that it is much more structured than what I'm doing. I'm just doing this to highlight certain things. So I can also go to tools, and still in overlay, if I wanted to put an arrow, or if I wanted to do freehand work, I can do so. And if there was something that I didn't want the students to see, because it's let's say it's a bulk feedback, I can add a blur. All right. So I'm just going to add a little blur right. Oh, I'm sorry, that was still off. So I'm going to add a little blur. So I go back to overlay and I click on blur. I can add a blur right here. All right. So you notice that it blurs it out. So if I have somebody's name that shouldn't be there, or if I was highlighting one of my students' work to highlight something in, say, a bulk feedback, you can easily do that so that the students don't see what they should not see. So essentially, much of what you would do in giving your feedback would come from using the text, using in overlay text, image, shapes. So you can also add different shapes if you want. But much of what we would be doing for feedback purposes would be in the overlay. So if I wanted to put an arrow, I could just drop an arrow in there to highlight something that I want for my student. And I could combine this arrow with some kind of instruction in giving the feedback. It could be elaborative feedback, or maybe it's a reflective question that we're posing here, but we want the students to know that it is on this particular area. And so when you are finished and you are satisfied and you do one more run through, you can then save. No, by default, it automatically saves. So you will see that what it saves, however, is the project. So the video has not been saved as yet for sharing. To do so, you would have to click over here. So this gives you delete, but we don't want to delete this. All right. This gives you some basic information. So it tells you that the audio, the narration comes with the video. It shows my cursor and the camera. Of course, if I click that, the camera would come off. So you can decide if you want the camera or not. Now, for students who, because we say that this is aligned with the UDL principles, if you want to add captions, you can do so. And there are different ways that you can add caption. So first, you can decide the language that you want it in. Most of us speak English, so we would use English. Most of our students speak English, so we would use English as well. You can get your captions from a file if you have already created captions and save them as such, or you can let the AI aspect of the software pull from speech and create the captions in text format. All right, so if I do text to speech and I click start, look at what happens. So it takes a little while to generate your speech to text. I was saying text to speech. All right. So if you play this button, so you click pause. Oh, let me start at the beginning. To look in the camera at points. So don't look in it so that it becomes uneasy or uncomfortable. Look as, all right. So it gives you that preview. So of course, if you have students who may struggle with the audio, you know, students who may have a challenge there, it's a good idea for you to insert the caption. And then to the right, you see the text. If there's anything that you need to edit, you can do it right here. So sometimes because of our accents or so forth, it may come across slightly differently. So you can actually adjust it here and it is reflected in here. All right. And then I can say, and then you can talk because that is what the caption would have. So it is then reflected when you have made your changes to your caption, you click OK, and that would be captured. All right. And so you see that this will know how. Look as if you were having a conversation, because you know, in conversations, we look up, we look across, we look down. All right. So all those different things are put in place and then we're ready to save. So when I click on this, okay, it says save this project as a file. I click on it and it tells me that it's going to save it as an MP4, but I can change. MP4 is very common, so we'll save it as MP4. The name is Allison M Feedback, and that's because we had put it here before. If we hadn't put it here, it means that we would have to change it so that it doesn't say video 0012980. All right, so we would change it here. The folder, you decide where you want to save it. So if you already have a folder created, you can save it there. It will give you the desktop. You can always change that. I'm going to leave it on the desktop. And then it tells me that the captions are in English. Again, I can change that. And the quality, there are 3 quality types. So you can decide if you want it to be normal, if you want it to be higher, which means that the quality is beautiful, but the file size is larger. Remember that if we're going to upload this to the VLE, to the Moodle platform, for us on the Mona campus, the maximum is 300 megs. So you need to be mindful of that. If it's too large and you can't upload it, it means that you would have to put it in some cloud-based storage and then make a link to it. So I'm ready. I'm happy with this. I'll click publish and then it will publish. One of the beautiful things about ScreenPal is that you can publish in the background. So it will do whatever, and when it's ready, you get some notification, but you can do something else while that works in the background. All right, so I'm going to stop my sharing, and great, we have an hour. Good, so you can actually get a little practice. It's going to continue loading. When it's finished loading, I will share. All right, so I'm just going to stop sharing. Now, quick question. For the person who had asked about the learning curve, how are you feeling? The person would ask how hard was it or how easy was it to use. Any concerns still?
I think that might have been me, you mean?
Right.
Not really. I think I put in the chat, my internet went out a couple of times, so I missed some things, but it looks like, you know, everything is kind of self-explanatory. You just hover over something and you see everything come up, so you can kind of decide what you want to do. So yeah, I think
much.
it's workable.
All
You
right,
just
I
have to
know
practice.
that's it. You will have to practice. All right. So what we're going to do now for about 20 minutes, Miss Barkley, we're going to put you in breakout rooms. So I see that we still have maybe three breakout rooms, Miss Barkley. So we're going to create 3 breakout rooms and we're going to put persons in. And what we're going to do, so I want you to listen carefully before you go in. One person select a piece that you're going to give feedback on. All right. So one person can provide the assignment. Please ensure that if you're using real students' work, that there is no, the student's name doesn't show, please. All right. You can use anything at all. The whole idea is for you to practice adding your different tools while you give feedback. All right. If you're going to turn your camera on, remember that you can choose to have a background, or if you choose none, you'll have the preview so you can see. But I'd love to see each group, so we're going into 3 rooms, each group spend some time, think about A, the types of feedback that you're going to give the student based on the work, B, that you use the overlay to include text, image, and highlight. So we'll do those 3 for now. All right. So remember, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to record on the student's work. And then the next thing you'll do, you'll add these overlays. So we'll add the text, we'll add images, and we'll add highlights for now. If you feel adventurous and you want to add a few more things to it for the student, please do so. Don't make it too long, maybe a minute, 2 minutes, and then I want you to save it so that you can share when we come back. So when we come back, it probably wouldn't be ready as yet, but I will wrap up with my presentation and then we'll share what you have after. All right. So Ms. Barkley, if you could create 3, my video is ready. So this is the other thing, it moves very quickly. So you don't have to worry about spending too much time because I have already gone through the feedback. I have sent it to be published. It is ready. I can now upload it to my Moodle platform or put it in my drive and share it with a particular student, that sort of thing. All right. So Ms. Barkley, if you'll put us in 3, if you'll create 3 rooms, I will come in each room so you don't have to worry about being alone. You are going to.
All right, so I created 3 rooms.
Yes.
Yes.
So
For
you're
20 minutes.
It's 12, yes, 15 minutes works. Thanks. And so you're going, go ahead, Miss Barkley.
15 minutes, you said, or 20?
15, we'll work with 15.
Okay.
Yes. And so you're going to practice what we just talked about and what we just went through. So you're going to create a screen capture, giving feedback to a student. It doesn't matter if it's not a student's work. We want to practice using these overlays and giving the feedback. And then save it so that when we come back, we can talk about the experience, talk about the ideas. I saw somebody posted something in the chat. And so we'll continue. Ms. Barkley, we're going to pause the recording so that we don't have 15 minutes of empty space.
Okay, all right. All right, so I'm going to open all the rooms now. I saw 2 persons dropping off, so we have equal numbers in each room.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. All right, so I see that we are coming back. I'll just wait until everybody is back in the room. All right, I think everybody is in. Welcome back. Now, when we have these little sessions, I know that the time isn't enough, but it's just to whet your appetite, and then you get a chance after on your own to practice some more. So we're just gonna take each group, hear your feedback, share what it is that you got done. If you had any challenges, let's hear. So we'll start with room 1, and room 1 had Joanne in it. Then we'll move on to room 2, which has Amanda in it. And then we go on to room 3, which has Annika in it. So that's the order in which we'll go. You have sharing privileges. They have sharing privileges, right, Miss Barclay?
Yes, they do.
All right. So room 1, let's hear about your experience and share what it is you want to share with us.
Okay. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So we had an interesting experience. The only thing is that I couldn't publish my video. It was giving me some error. So I can share my screen with the video and what I just want to show persons. So we use the same document that you share with us, and I did the narration and video as well. And it was a good process. I mean, actually working with the ScreenPal program, and we were able, I'm just going to show one of the effects that we added, which would have been text to the video. I'm gonna show right here. In terms of type of struggles or challenges persons incredibly have in terms of persons in your field. And then the next one would be where we included highlight. Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica. Also helps to add some more content. So I think it was a good experience. I mean, we all helped and gave some ideas. And I think going forward, definitely will be using this in my teaching experience. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. And I had peeped in and I saw you discussing, how to resize the text. So that was very good. And I'm happy that we did it in groups. So you got a chance to bounce ideas off each other,
Right.
All right, room 2, which has Amanda. Calling room 2.
All right, so
Okay.
Carneal, you could share the video that we have. Let her see that we actually tried. Because what happened, she kept dropping off. So yeah, she kept dropping off. And while she was dropped off, she said the video was going. So when she came back, what we wanted to do was to add the editing. So I wanted her to add like you had the Allison feedback, I wanted her to add, for the document that she brought up was something about Lloyd. So I wanted her to add Lloyd's feedback, but we didn't get to do it. I'm not sure she's even on here.
Yes, hi, I just came back on. So,
Right, so I was saying you could share the video with her, even though we didn't get to add anything, but.
Actually, I'm kind of reluctant because I seem to, every time I navigate away from the screen is one of the things that causes me to drop. But I can say it actually, thanks to Amanda, she was able to kind of verbally walk me through the directions, and it was straightforward getting the document up and starting the recording. I think my only thing right now would be how do I edit it after it's up and I'm finished?
So I can tell you that all you do is open ScreenPal again. You will see all your projects. You click on the one you want to edit, and you do the process and resave.
Okay. Yeah, that would be the only part I'll have to kind of work on for now.
All right.
Thanks.
So I just want to add that I'll definitely try it on my own, but I did not download the ScreenPal, but I will download that one.
I'm very happy to hear that so many persons are interested in trying this. I know that room 3 had some issues, but I'm going to allow you to share your experiences. And if anything actually worked, you can talk about that. So room 3, which had the Elliot and Annika, go ahead, please.
Well, I don't know if
other person might want to share, but I just logged in with on my computer, so you see me logged in twice here. And can share what I tried a little earlier with the recording. We were having a little a few issues, but let me share and see.
All right, so is anybody able to share? Okay, great.
That's working. Okay. So I don't know if the audio recorded because I wasn't hearing. I'm not hearing audio. Well, but I did test out a couple of the tools. Talking there but not hearing. So I don't know what happened with that. Try the highlight and I try the eraser.
Okay, nice.
And I try the text box.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Anika. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, this is essentially ScreenPal at work. Much of what you'd have to do would have to be about, ensuring that you practice, because from this point on it's going to be practice. I am sharing my screen back with you just to answer the question that the person asked about when you have done so. So I'm just going to do another search for ScreenPal. There it is. So I will open it. And of course it is coming up on, all right, it came up on the other screen. So there it is. So this is the video that I had done. When you have finished and you have saved it, because I'd saved it on the desktop, if I wanted to go back in and make any kind of adjustment, I simply double click on it. So I click on it to open it, and there I can do my editing again. All right. So I may decide that I want to add something else in here. So and remember that we focused on the overlays, but there are so many other things that you can focus on and that you can explore and decide that you want to add it. So I am just, this is me going back in, making my edits. And then all I do is it's automatically saved. So all I do is re-download and it will allow me to publish. It's going to overwrite, which is there already. A message will come up to tell you that it's going to override and you should click again. And then it will, excuse me, it will do the saving. What happened just now? So I click publish and then it tells me that I should click it again. All right, there. So I click it again and I can let it do it in the background while I find something else to do. So that is how you would return to a video that you have even published already. All right. And because it automatically saves it, you don't have to worry about, oh my goodness, I'm going to miss anything, because you would have captured that. I'm happy that you went through the experience and that you have been toying with it. Of course, you get better with practice. And so I just want to go back and wrap up this aspect of it. So, and then I'll share the video that I did at the end. So let me continue with this. So we went through the video. And so there are some things that we need to think about when we are setting up our screencast feedback. So we have to think about preparing first. So we ensure that we have the students work together. So we have different, we can download them from the VLE or wherever the assignments are. And then you can put them in a folder, ensure that they're properly labeled or named so you can easily recognize them. If you're using your desktop and you need to go there, just make sure you declutter it so that it doesn't have any of your personal information coming up when you're opening anything or sharing. If you use a rubric, ensure that you have the rubric there so you can make reference to it when you're talking the student through how well he or she has done. You make reference to the rubric. And when you're going through, plan to talk about a few key points. Don't try to write down everything. Jot down a few things, 2 or 3 things, and then let the conversation flow as you go through. The point of you holding down your head and reading from a piece of paper defeats the purpose of you having this eye-to-eye and conversational tone. All right, so that is preparing. And then you do the setup for your recording. So ensure that your earphones or your headphones or your earphones working properly. Ensure that you're at camera level, so it's not the top of your head showing or your bust, but that your face is captured in the camera if you're using your camera. And I encourage you to use your camera. All right, ensure that you have good lighting, that your face is shown, so it's not just a shadow and a silhouette that the students are seeing, but they actually get a chance to see your face. Ensure that you have a quiet area to do your recording, so you don't want to be in a noisy area. And if your background isn't appropriate, you can easily select one of the virtual backgrounds when you're recording in ScreenPal. And have a structure. So the third point here is having a recording structure. So you can start out with an introduction where you greet the student by name, identify the assignment that you're going to give the feedback on. And then you can give a summary of your overall impression and talk about the strengths. And then you go through the specific points. So you go through the points that you want to highlight. And it's as you highlight, please remember that you're giving more than you have done this. Give the feedback that requires, that gives constructive information that have the students thinking about what it is they've done, or ask a couple of questions as you go through, and then wrap it up with a summary, key takeaways, and what the students need to do. And the final thing is what we're calling our tips for technical ease. So you can use your cursor when you're going through to highlight things, or you can use the highlighting features in ScreenPal. Pause the video if you need to pause the video. That is one of the beautiful things about it. You can pause the video and nobody knows that you had to pause and go away and come back. So pause the video if you need to collect your thoughts. And remember, if you make a couple of errors, you can easily redo and cut that out when you go into ScreenPal. Don't make it too lengthy. Experts will tell you between 3 and 5 minutes of video feedback. And the reasons they say between 3 and 5 and not a minute is because you're scrolling through the student work, you're putting in the images, you're highlighting pieces of information. And then speak naturally. All right, don't talk too low, don't talk too slow, be as natural as normal. Pretend that you're in the class and you're engaging with your students. So these are some of the things that you need to think about when you're going to use it. Then, of course, a few best practice, if you will. Become familiar with the tool. So if you're going to use it, explore it before you start with class. Okay, so have some dedicated time where you look at someone. I mean, and you don't even have to look at the other features as yet. You can just focus on the overlays for now, recording and using the overlays. So get a chance to explore it a little more. And then when you are going to actually do this, put all the assignments that are similar together so that you have the same set of thought processes when you're going through the feedback. All right. If you can, use a template, meaning have a structure that you would work with. So you know that you're going to start with an introduction where you greet the student and you highlight the strengths and you talk about what needs improvement, and then you wrap it up. So that's a basic structure. And then, of course, you may realize that you can use the same introduction and the same concluding statements, depending. So you can reuse what can be reused. All right. For technical efficiencies, for those of us who are good with using keyboard shortcuts, you can learn the keyboard shortcuts. Keyboard shortcuts are great for many things. So you can learn the shortcuts. Ensure that the area that you're working in is distraction free. So you're not looking up every minute, looking across, paying attention to somebody over there, pausing every minute so that you can cut out or attend to. So ensure that your environment is distraction free. And if you can, if it's available, use a second monitor. A second monitor is really good because it allows you to work with the two aspects easy enough. If you don't have a second monitor, don't sweat it. You would have seen where some persons only had their once a single monitor and it worked well. A second monitor simply makes it a little bit easier. Consider the length of your video, 3 to 5 minutes. And that is enough for you to highlight the areas that you want to highlight, pick up the students, point out what areas need adjusting and so forth. And then, of course, try to focus on, say, 3 major points rather than nitpicking and going through everything that you find. So highlight three to 4 areas, you know, that you really want the student to focus on. And of course, you're blending. So although we have the voice, we're putting in written text, we're putting in imagery. You can also put in a video if needs be. You can put a link, you know, there's so many different things. And remember that for our students who need that kind of assistance, use the captions. You can edit your captions and you use the captions as well. And then, of course, you can integrate it with the learning management system. So if it's an assignment, you can give feedback and each student will get this. Nobody else will see. If it's bulk feedback that you give in, you upload it in a space where everybody can see. If you're using a cloud-based storage like Google Drive or OneDrive, put it there and you share it with the individual student, or you share it so that anyone with the link can see. So these are some things you think about when you talk about the integration in the LMS or with any cloud storage facility. And I did talk about the accessibility already. Remember using captions, and if you can put image and text in addition to the audio, that makes it perfect. All right. So what are the key takeaways for today? So today we looked at an emerging feedback tool, screencast feedback. And so we went through the whole idea of what's the pedagogical rationale behind using multimedia feedback. We looked at what some authors have said, and we explored the whole matter of ScreenPal and how it could be used to give feedback. I just want to remind us that, you know, as you go through, there are several things you may think about. So you may want to say to yourself, okay, how exactly would I use that? One of the beautiful things is that I hear so many persons say, oh my goodness, I'm getting ideas. I love this. This could work. So think about that. Which one of the courses would you use it with? Would you use it with your undergrad, your postgrad, with both groups? Think about how exactly would you introduce it to your student. Think about what one small step you would, you know, try to implement for the rest of the semester. It's coming up to the end of the semester where students getting feedback on so many things. Is this something that you could actually use? And if you do, you know, if you do, think about ensuring that you're conversing with the students. So even though it's a one-way sort of information sharing, make it feel as if it's a conversation, not the student is right there. Think about the feedback I gave first. When I listen to it, I find myself nodding and saying, oh, yes, you know, that's something that I could have changed. That is the kind of feeling the students should get when they are going through your screencast feedback. Remember that there is a learning curve, so don't worry about it too much. Just take your time and familiarize yourself with the aspects that you're going to be using. Start small. I always say start small, one step at a time. Those who know me tend to hear me say it's ambition that's killed Caesar. So start small, start with one overlay. All right, test it with one overlay, test it with some students in one of your classes. The important thing is that you start and use this as not just another way of giving feedback, but think of it as having this kind of dialogue with your students so that they can understand exactly what to do, how to do it. Ensure that your tone conveys your pleasure, because you don't get that in the written aspect. So this is a new way of looking at feedback. It's different from what we have always learned, but I believe that we're in the era of learning, unlearning, and relearning. And for those of you who know me know that I'm always making reference to Toffler's mantra, where he says that the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And I find that things like video feedback and voice feedback and image feedback is something that's totally new. We have learned that we give written feedback in Reading pen, and we highlight things, we put an X and that sort of thing. We are now operating in a totally different dispensation. And as such, we have to scrutinize what we learned before, interrogate whether or not it still holds currency and to what extent, and unlearn so that we can learn new ways of engaging with our 21st century students. So I just wanted to share that with you. I am happy that you came. And there are some tips that I'm putting together. I didn't quite finish, so I will finish those and share. I also have some readings that have to do with screencast feedback and multimedia feedback, which I will share. When the video becomes available, we will share it on our YouTube channel, and I will share the link with you. So please look out for the link for the readings and the little guide that speaks to how you can capitalize on using Screencast-O-Matic. I want to remind us that this is a tool. And just like any other tool, it has a place. So if you're thinking of using it, ensure that you look at the benefit, you look at how exactly it will engage your learners, you think about, the kind of feedback you're going to give, and you decide, will this work? Will this engage my students more? Will this ensure that they understand? If it does, then you use it. Okay, don't be too hard on yourself. Take it one step at a time. Ms. Barclay has shared the evaluation. Please, please, please. We want to hear from you. We want to hear how we can continue to engage with you. I want to thank you very much for coming and sharing the space with us today. Thank you, Ms. Barclay, ever so gracious. And I love this. I see where people say that they will definitely be exploring the tool.
Wonderful.
And so go ahead, go ahead. Somebody was saying something. All right, but please do the evaluation, and thank you very much. Look out for the email from us, which will have the files, the guide, and the link to today's recording. It's a pleasure. All right, so I'm looking at the chat.
Okay, thank you.
You're
It's
most
interesting.
welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.